Hebrews. This is Prophets of Awakening. This is our Advanced Israelite Bible study of the 19th of April, 2022. We're going to be dealing with the book of Joshua, chapters 27 and 28, later on in class. I'm asking everybody to like and share, subscribe to Prophets of Awakening channel, and hit our notification button if you can. Also, I want everybody to know that, for those that don't know, we all go on Clubhouse. It's another app. We're on Clubhouse on Wednesday nights and Friday nights with Q&A. So, this is a non-Messianic channel for those that don't know. We deal with the Tanakh and the Torah. Tanakh is the Old Testament and so-called Book of Remembrance, and Torah is the 35 books of the Old Testament that was given to Solomon at Mount Sinai. So, shalom and welcome to everyone to Prophets of Awakening, and welcome to our Advanced Israelite Bible study. We're going to do our moment of silence and our prayer and Psalms, and then we go into the current events. Okay, and this moment of silence is for our Creator and His right-hand man, Lord of Hosts, and all that they are doing to bring about our prophesied return to our homeland. Okay. O Lord, I pray unto the Lord, my God. We make our confessions, O Lord, great and dreadful God, keeping covenant and mercy to them that love thee and to them that keep thy commandments. O Lord, righteousness belongeth unto thee, but unto us confusion of face as it is this day, to the men of Judah, to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and unto all Israel that are near and that are far off, through all the countries which thou hast driven us, because of our trespass, that we have trespassed against thee. As it is written in the laws of Moses, all this evil is come upon us in the land of our captivity, here in the Americas, Caribbeans, Great Britain, and Africa. O Lord, according to all thy righteousness, I beseech thee, that thine anger and thy fury be turned away from thy city Jerusalem and thy people and thy holy mountain. O Lord, hear this prayer, because thy face is shine upon thy sanctuary and thy people for your sake. O Lord, open thine eyes and incline thine ears to hear and to behold our condition. O Lord, hear. O Lord, forgive. O Lord, hearken and do, and defer not, for thine own sake, O my Lord, for thy people in your land needs you desperately at this hour. Peace be on you. Okay. Read the Psalms, and we'll do the current events. Okay. I'm going to read Psalm 64. It's plot and punishment. It's a Psalm of David. Hear my voice, O God, in my prayer. Preserve my life from fear of the enemy. Hide me from the secret counsel of the wicked, from the insurrection of the workers of iniquity, who with their tongues like a sword and bend their bows to shoot their arrows, even bitter words. That they may shoot in secret at the perfect. Suddenly do they shoot at him, and fear not. They encourage themselves in all evil matter. They commune of laying snares privately. They say, who shall see them? They search out iniquities. They accomplish a diligent search. Both the inward thought of every one of them and the heart is deep. But God shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. So they shall make their own tongues fall upon themselves, and all that see them shall flee away, and all men shall fear, and all shall declare the works of God, for they shall wisely consider of his doings. The righteous shall be glad in the Lord, and shall trust in him, and all the upright in heart shall glory. So that was Psalms 64. It's plots and punishment. Anybody got any comments on that? It says that and this is something that you can bank on 7 and 8 and 9. Uh, it says verse 6 says they search our iniquities, they accomplish a diligent search, both the inward thought of every one of them, and the heart is deep. But God shall shoot at them with an arrow. Suddenly shall they be wounded. So they shall make their own tongue to fall upon themselves. All that see them shall flee away, and all men shall fear, and shall declare the works of God, for they shall wisely consider of his doings. Okay? You can bank on that. Okay? Anybody got any current events?
Shalom. I just ran across a little article today that I was reading, and this happened in Atlanta, where they arrested a 40-year-old male that they said, had a cult there in DeKalb County. Um, it was with all black women that were there, and he's still in jail. They didn't set a bond yet, so they say he's well known on the internet. But I'm gonna do some more research on him.
Right.
His first name is Eligio, and
Okay.
so he goes by such names as Nature Boy, the Messiah Demigod,
Black
Master
dude?
Chef. Yes, black dude.
Yeah,
Um,
I saw him about 5 years ago.
right. He's been traveling, and the name of their organization is called Carbon Nation.
Okay.
That's the name of the organization. And two women that I guess finally got away from them are the ones that reported it.
Right.
And he just basically, because he done an interview back in 2020, he's just saying that they are misunderstood. But he says that they teach things like sexual education. They believe in uh, teaching that to the women, and the rest of the women that are still there, they're supporting him. They said he's a great guy. He's very supportive of them. He's loving. So I was like, wow, that's something. But they have charged him. I'm trying to find the multiple charges here that what they have charged him with: rape, kidnap, and several other things. So he went to Costa Rica, but they ended up kicking them out of Costa Rica for some reason. So I'm gonna research that. But that was an
Right.
interesting topic. I found that topic in a group that I follow, which is Daughter of Zion's, that had posted that. So
Okay.
yeah, that was very interesting.
Okay. Is there
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, appreciate that information. Well, I got a couple right here.
When the coming economic recession strikes in America, more than half of all people in the nation are going to be financially wiped out almost immediately. Today, more than 60% of all U.S. workers are living paycheck to paycheck, and most Americans have more credit card debt than emergency savings. In other words, when the looming collapse occurs, we will see millions of people panicking all around this country. One of the primary principles financial experts teach people is that in order to achieve financial security, you need to have a cushion to fall back on. You can never tell for sure when unexpected expenses such as major car repairs or healthcare bills will come along. So, during a major economic collapse, if you do not have any savings, you will probably find yourself in a lot of trouble. We all know that there are millions of families barely scraping by month to month, so we can understand why so many people have not been able to save sufficient money for an emergency. But if you are in a position to build up an emergency fund, you should do so while you still can. Our economic and financial systems are facing multiple threats, and the time to get ready for the next great economic crisis is rapidly running out. But the vast majority of us are not prepared at all. For that reason, today we have compiled stats that expose America's lack of preparedness. But before checking this list, please don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to keep updated with our next videos. Here are 15 signs that most Americans are flat broke and totally unprepared for the coming economic crisis. 1. Financial advisors recommend people to save 6 to 9 months' worth of expenses in case of an emergency. However, 25% of Americans reportedly have no emergency savings at all. The United States grapples with wildfires, flooding, and droughts every year, but this means that 1 in 4 Americans cannot afford to cover an emergency expense, according to a new Bankrate survey. 2. The survey also found that more than half, or about 51% of Americans, have less than 3 months' worth of emergency savings. Low-income households are much more likely to not have sufficient emergency savings. Among households earning less than $50,000 a year, 65% of respondents say they feel insecure with their current level of savings. Greg McBride, the chief financial analyst at Bankrate, highlights that it takes time to build up a savings cushion. Enough savings to cover a full 6 months' worth of expenses is a destination, not a starting point, McBride says. What's important is to have savings.
If you're still trying to figure out how to start an online business,
He explains. You may have to step your way up to it, but the sooner you form that habit, the longer it will stay with you. Then it makes saving happen automatically, even as your income grows. 3. On top of that, the Bankrate analysis also uncovered that roughly 56% of Americans are unable to cover an unexpected $1,000 bill with savings. Instead of using their emergency savings accounts, most Americans would have to go into debt to pay for an unexpected $1,000 bill, either by asking family and friends for a loan, taking a personal loan from a bank, or charging a credit card. Emergency savings and the $1,000 threshold are really an indication of how much people are struggling, that they are that close to the edge financially, explained McBride. 4. Right now, nearly 50% of Americans say that soaring living expenses are keeping them from saving more, according to a separate Bankrate survey. 5. At the same time, credit card debt is going through the roof. A study released by LendingTree in January found that 45.4% of families are currently carrying some sort of credit card debt. Overall, Americans owe $807 billion across almost 506 million card accounts, which means that the average household debt stands at $6,270. But on the other hand, the average monthly household income for a family of 4 is only $6,054. 6. Right now, nearly 1/4 of Americans believe it will take 2 years or more to pay off their credit card debt. Meanwhile, 8% believe they will be able to pay off their debt within 5 years, while 2% believe they will never be able to pay it off. 7. At least 15% of Americans have been in credit card debt for 15 years, according to a survey conducted by Inside 1031. The survey revealed that 55% of people carry a credit card balance from month to month. About 40% haven't been credit card debt-free since before 2018, and over 15% have had credit card debt since before 2006. Accounts for a total of $15 trillion in national household debt, including debt from credit cards, mortgages, home equity lines of credit, auto loans, student loans, and other household obligations. That's a 6.2% increase from a year ago, according to a CNBC analysis of data from the U.S. Census Bureau. 13. Data released by the Gold IRA Guide revealed that 84% of Americans do not own gold or silver. Only approximately 10.8% of the American population owns gold, while 11.6% owns silver. By contrast, it's estimated that less than 6% of the entire American population owns any gold or silver for investment purposes. 14. According to the latest Value Penguin survey, more than half of U.S. consumers worry about the financial implications of a natural disaster. An emergency expense could financially devastate many Americans, with 54% of consumers fearing the impact would be too expensive to afford, especially amongst millennials, about 60%, and with more than one quarter, or 26%, strongly questioning their ability to ever recover financially from such an expense. 15. A new national poll conducted by disasterchecklist.org shines a light on America's lack of preparedness. The poll found that 78% of Americans don't have enough water and or canned goods to adequately meet their needs in case of emergency. Among 18 to 34-year-olds, the rate is even higher, 88%. The vast majority of consumers are not prepared for emergency evacuations, with 6 in 10 Americans reportedly not having an emergency evacuation kit. You know, maybe some people have just gotten completely numb. Maybe some people are still thinking that this bubble economy can last forever. Maybe some people can actually see the challenges are coming, but are not in a position to do something about it. Maybe some people just don't know where to start and how to get prepared. Well, look, if you're new to this, we have several other videos in this channel that can help you. The most important thing right now is to stay alert and come up with an emergency plan that is personal to you and your situation. And this.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Yeah, a lot of Americans are relying on their credit cards to get them by for the month because, I mean, everything is going up. Prices in the stores, your rent, electric bill, water bill, everything is going up.
Right.
And like you said, Lord forbid if you have an emergency.
Right. You're going to do them in.
Right.
Well, yeah. You can see it coming. Mm-hmm. Okay. I thought this was pretty interesting right here. Check it out.
Warning about China's continued support of Russia. The Chinese Foreign Ministry released a statement saying China will increase its, quote, strategic coordination with Russia regardless of international volatility. The Chinese Vice Foreign Minister gave that assurance to Russia's ambassador to China. Joining us now, Retired Air Force Brigadier General Robert Spalding. He's a former China strategist at the Pentagon, now CEO of the tech security firm Semper. His new book, entitled War Without Rules, China's Playbook for Global Domination. Also with us, professor at Columbia University, economist Dr. Jeffrey Sachs. Great to have you back on the show with us this morning, both of you.
Yeah, so General, thanks so much for being with us. It seems that Xi just hasn't been able to get out of his way over the past year. You can look at the zero COVID strategy that's just wrecking his economy right now, the missteps in Hong Kong, embracing Vladimir Putin before he goes on a disastrous military campaign. Obviously, they want to be part of a system. They want to dominate a system that Putin wants to disrupt. Why do they continue to embrace him?
Well, I mean, one of the problems that you have to deal with, both with Putin and with Xi, is the fact that they are leaders of totalitarian regimes. So a lot of times they don't get, any feedback that's really positive. But of course, with Xi, there's something even more, I think, sinister behind it, and that is he wanted to see how the West would react to Putin with his invasion of Ukraine, because he plans a similar invasion of Taiwan eventually. And so understanding the economic, the financial, and the political ramifications of that invasion actually helps him understand how he can deal with the West when he does something similar to Taiwan.
Well, General, let me ask you if you agree with Admiral Servidis that the last 6 weeks certainly have had to raise questions in his head about maybe Taiwan's not worth it. Russia was supposed to roll into Kyiv in 2 or 3 days, and it hasn't turned out that way. Do you think we're oversimplifying our read of Xi in thinking that he may be going through that and drawing those conclusions?
No, she basically said that he is not going to leave Taiwan to the next generation. The Chinese don't get deterred by actions of the West. What they seek to understand and accomplish is how do they take advantage of the situation. And with Russia's invasion of Ukraine, it's really about learning the lessons. And then they're going to turn around and they're going to use those lessons on things like the Belt and Road Initiative. They're going to strengthen energy cooperation with Russia. They're going to use their satellite states to really isolate and secure their economy from any sanctions that may be coming from the West. So no, I don't think it's going to deter Xi in any way. I think what it's going to do is allow him to take measures internally to China and in conjunction with other countries through the Belt and Road Initiative to ensure that the West doesn't have the same levers that they had with regard to Putin.
Dr. Sachs, when you look at the economic side of this, of the decision by China to side with Russia, what is the calculation there of further isolating itself when saying we side with the country that invaded a sovereign nation that is murdering civilians by the tens of thousands right now and is looking to annex some of the territory from Ukraine? Does she care about the isolation that brings with it? What is his economic strategy here?
I think you have to count the votes, and it's a little bit different from what we think. There are 30 countries that have put on sanctions, but they represent just 15% of the world population. There were 94 countries that voted to suspend Russia from the Human Rights Council, but they account for only 24% of the world's population. Basically, we have the U.S. and Europe in a particular posture. It's not just China, it's almost all of the developing world is saying this isn't our battle. These sanctions are hurting us, they're hurting the world economy. So the idea, I just want to be clear, whatever right or wrong, the idea that these sanctions are going to do the job or that they will deter China, we just heard they will not. But it's not China being isolated. We're talking a lot to ourselves, actually. I've been traveling all over the world as usual, and the view is very, very different outside of the U.S. and Europe. This is just important for us to understand.
Okay. Any comments on that?
Russia, they really need China because, since this war has, started, they've been isolated from a lot of things like the supply chain and, the financial system and all that. So they really need China.
Right. Yeah, they working together. They need each other.
Right.
Yeah, it's a concerted effort. They're trying to bring this the West down. They don't want to deal with them no more.
Right.
And it's been prophesied too. So, yeah.
Wow.
Okay. We got some need to know information right here. We're gonna look at this and then we'll talk about it.
Is the world's largest reserve currency. Literally, it's the one currency in the world that you can bring to any country in exchange. But what happens if the United States dollar is one day replaced by the Chinese renminbi? Now, this might seem crazy to many people, but consider this. Since 2000, the dollar has declined from 71% to a 59% share in central bank reserves. In this report from the IMF entitled "The Stealth Erosion of Dollar Dominance," it states the Chinese yuan has provided the largest single source of dollar erosion. What is the future of the US dollar in our world economy? Well, let's break it down in today's important video. Before we get started, I want to thank Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring courses for anyone who wants to learn new skills. Recently, I've been taking a lot of courses. Find a course on Skillshare. And whatever your passion is in life, I guarantee that you can find a suitable course for you on Skillshare. The first 1,000 people to click the link in the description below or use my code Cyrus Jansen will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Since China joined the World Trade Organization in 2001, China has gradually surpassed the US as the major supplier of goods to Europe, Asia, Africa, and South America. If China and its partners agreed to use their respective currencies for trade, the demand for RMB would be astronomical, and this would accelerate the Chinese renminbi toward becoming a key world reserve currency. Currently, 125 countries around the world count China as their biggest trade partner. Holding renminbi would reduce transaction costs, minimize exchange rate volatility, but there is one additional reason that many nations are now considering. You can also avoid US sanctions. We need to look no further than the US sanctions against Russia to see why many other nations are now considering becoming less dependent on the US dollar. Let's first analyze the purpose of sanctions against Russia. The stated goal from the US was to significantly damage the Russian economy, or as one senior US official put it, the sanctions would push the Russian currency into freefall. This weaponization of the US dollar is a very new kind of war that America can use to punish their adversaries. This has profound implications for the future of international politics and economics. In reality, it could become the single biggest factor to more countries moving away from the US dollar. After World War II, we were taught globalization would prevent future conflict. It would bring former enemies closer together in a new global economy. But now, this new global economy has actually become the new battleground. The US dollar is the most used currency for trade and financial transactions. In addition, America's capital markets are the deepest in the world. As a result, it's very difficult for companies, central banks, and even countries to operate if they are cut off from the US dollar. The sanctions on Russia's central bank are the first time this weapon has been used against a major economy, and the first time that it has been used as part of a war. In the West, there is certainly a feeling that we should do something to stop the war in Ukraine. But it's also important to assess the cost of these sanctions and the likelihood of their success. These sanctions most likely will prompt a backlash against the US dollar in global weeks since sanctions against Russia began, the Russian currency has already recovered most of its value it initially lost. These moves to freeze Russia's reserves marks a historic shift in the conduct of foreign policy. Joe Biden recently stated, "These economic sanctions are a new kind of economic statecraft with the power to inflict damage that rivals military might. Even when sanctions work, they take a long time to have an impact. However, the economic pain for the crisis is being felt around the world. Most specifically in Europe, who is heavily dependent on Russian oil and gas. Germany, the powerhouse economy of the EU, imports approximately 1/3 of its gas from Russia. It's clear the US and its allies will stay committed to their plan of using economic sanctions to put pressure on Putin, but Western governments have not defined what Russia would need to do for sanctions to be lifted. With no end date in sight, Russia is adapting. Last week, Vladimir Putin stated this: "I have decided to implement a set of measures to transfer payment for our gas supplies to unfriendly countries into Russian rubles. It is clear that delivering our goods to the European Union, the United States, and receiving dollars, euros, and other currencies no longer makes sense to us." India has responded to this change by setting up a rupee-ruble payment scheme to bypass sanctions. This move could be potentially very dangerous for India. They are risking international sanctions in exchange for access to the Russian market. But India is in a difficult position. The country is largely dependent on Russian wheat, sunflower oil, and energy. We truly live in a global economy, and you can now clearly see how using trade sanctions against one nation has a ripple-down effect across the globe. Are the Russian sanctions accelerating the shift away from the US dollar? Listen to the advice from one of America's most successful investors, Jim Rogers.
The US dollar has owned the world for decades, but now, because of US actions, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. The Chinese, the Russians, the Iranians are coming up with competing currencies and competing institutions to compete with the World Bank, to compete with the IMF. I don't like saying this, I'm an American, but America is shooting itself in the foot, so there are many competitors coming, being forced by American trade action.
But where exactly are the biggest competitors coming from? Richard Turin, a top 100 global fintech influencer, shares his insights. Many nations are almost 100% exposed to the US dollar in their trade, and they now have to start thinking of de-dollarizing. What you are going to see is a slow rollback of their use of the dollar by small amounts, maybe to 85 or 80%, just to reduce their dollar exposure. This is risk management rather than an aversion to the US. To do that, they're going to look for an alternative payment system, and in a few years, they're going to move to the yuan, and particularly the digital yuan for trade. China's central bank digital currency, CBDC, is something that I have covered extensively on my channel because it is a future technology that will greatly impact future global trade. Richard Turin explains more.
Who would you say has got the lead in the race to build out a central bank, a global central bank digital currency?
Without question, China. China is ahead in all of financial technology by a decade. It will take the U.S. easily another 5 years just to get out of planning and trials.
So just to clarify then, Richard, the digital yuan, can it really subvert the dollar's hegemony?
The answer is now it's not going to subvert dollar hegemony, but we have to be thinking in the future. And if we go about 5 to 10 years out, yes, the digital yuan can play a significant role in reducing the dollar's usage in international trade. Remember, China is the largest trading country, and you're going to see digital yuan slowly supplant the dollar when buying things from China.
Currently, there are around 70 central banks around the globe that hold the Chinese yuan in their foreign reserve portfolios. As China's economy continues to grow, this number will likely expand. As the world watches economic sanctions against Russia, many countries are starting to worry if they will be the next target of US sanctions. As shown in this graph, this is a legitimate risk countries must now consider. The United States and Western countries have only become more aggressive in using sanctions, with the United States leading the world with over 60 active cases. As I've presented in today's video, China is in a strong position as the world leader in trade. Over the long term, countries will bypass the US dollar and hold Chinese digital renminbi to trade directly with China. The US dollar will still maintain its position as the world currency for the short term, but in the long term, more countries will look to hold a variety of foreign reserve currencies. No country wants to be 100% exposed to the US dollar anymore. It's simply too risky. Think of this like investing. You don't want to invest all your money into a single company, but rather reduce your risk by spreading out your investments over several companies. This is called diversification, and this is investing 101. Because the US government is now weaponizing the US dollar, the long-term effect will be a weaker US dollar that less countries around the world will want to hold. If you're an American,
Okay. Got anything out of that? Comments? Yeah, because it's a matter of time when it's we see it already happening. It already started where they starting to trade with the with that Russia is really the one jumping it off. He's putting it on people's mind to get away from the dollar by trading with the oil with the ruble, and that's just gonna enhance everybody's like a what they call it, a run, like a run on a bank. Everybody's gonna start going to uh, either the Russian ruble or more than likely that one, because nobody really wants to deal with the dollar no more. Yeah. Okay. So nobody else have any comments on that? We're gonna open it up for some Q&A. Anybody got any questions or comments about anything, or that they saw, or what conversation we had yesterday and on Sabbath? Okay.
I just want to say the topic that we covered yesterday on Clubhouse was very much needed,
Okay.
because we still have a long ways to go in that area, and just the understanding alone is far off.
Right.
And I mentioned this yesterday with saying that a lot of women that are being awakening is going and ending up in camps, and once they end up in these camps, it's not what they thought it would be,
Right.
because the brothers there have a lack of understanding of submission and a
Right.
virtuous woman.
Right.
So like I said, that is a very sensitive topic, but it
Right.
is much needed.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So that's it's one of the things about it is which is it's nothing to be pointing fingers about. It's more or less about exposing and making aware, making it known that you know long before or we even was thought about or existed, that we had we had forefathers and we had a Hebrew Israelite culture, and within that culture it's an art, and so that's what a lot of people not understanding about that. It's not you know based on these people coming up with their own imagination in these different groups that's forming now that we waking up. They got a lot of stuff twisted. They're not right divided. But one of the fundamental things about the situation is that you need to understand is it's an order. The order that's in place, that the Creator set in place for Israel whenever He delivered them, well before He delivered them out of Egypt, but especially when He delivered them out of Egypt and brought them to Mount Sinai. It's an order in place, and it's no you can't go to the left or the right. You gotta deal with it.
Right. I agree with that. But again, when you have an understanding of that order, right, as a Hebrew Israelite woman, and you understand that the men are the leaders, right? They are the leaders.
Right.
And we turn to them for that leadership,
Right.
right? But they take that leadership out of content. They are just running rapid with it on some other stuff. So it's not pointing fingers. It's understanding, because you're in a leadership role. That's just like having a bad manager. They're taking that position and using it to their advantage. They don't care about the team or anybody else. It's them.
Right. That's what got us over here.
Right.
So it's a bad. It's so the order that I'm talking about is a righteous order. You got righteous Israelite men. And that's really the concern that has to be. That's what has to be put in place and has to be focused on, because it's the in righteousness. even Yahweh and his Redeemer, they constantly tell you over and over again that they righteous. So that system, that the Israelite system is the glue that holds it together is righteousness, and dealing rightly with your brothers and sisters, your counterparts, your neighbors. So us going back to home, that's what that's all about. So it's all this stuff that we see happening now it's got to play out. Yeah. So.
Right, and the understanding is, we have to start somewhere. You got to start getting it right. You can't wait. Until when the Lord returns, then you say, "Oh, I want to get it right." You need to start working on that now, especially if you're reading the scriptures like you say you are.
Right. Exactly.
Start working on that now.
Right.
Because, like I said, as Hebrew Israelites, men and women, we both are under curses. So, with that understanding, you have to pull together and work together.
Right. Exactly. Right. Okay. So I got this video. It's dealing with what tied to some of the stuff that's being said and was talked about on the Sabbath and yesterday. Is a lot of stuff that's information that's been evading a lot of Israelites that they don't know nothing about, and they don't have a complete picture of everything that's going on and what we up against as Israelites. So I'm gonna play this.
Finds out I'm Jewish, they ask me about my history. How can somebody who looks like me be Jewish? It's not a completely unfair question. The most famous Jews are people like Woody Allen, Barbara Streisand, and Jerry Seinfeld. But it's a question that stems from a common misconception, that many understand typical Jews to be white people who immigrated from Eastern Europe. When Hollywood standardizes this Eurocentric viewpoint, it betrays reality.
Yeah, what does that mean? What do you mean by that?
Enjoy. Because the image of Jewishness is actually a wide array of Jewish characters, cultures, and something far broader than just skin color. Whether we're talking about European, Ethiopian, Yemenite, Indian, Asian, or Turkish Jews, the story of racial and ethnic diversity of the Jewish people goes back millennia. The story of Jews in the Americas, including Black Jews, begins only about 400 or 500 years ago. The Israelites who built an independent kingdom in the land of Israel 4,000 years ago probably didn't look like this. Thousands of years of moving throughout the world has led to the diversification of Jewish identity. There is no one Jewish look. Over 2,000 years ago, the tribes of Israel were scattered from their biblical homeland and haven't stopped moving since. Spain, Iraq, Iran, India, and parts of Africa have all had Jewish populations for hundreds, if not thousands of years. In the late 15th century, after the Spanish Inquisition, when authorities passed a decree forcing Jews to convert to Catholicism, many Jews fled to the New World and Jewish communities began to develop. As the colonies expanded, Jews from across Europe continued to immigrate. It wasn't long after this that the first Black Jews appeared in America, when in the 1500s, European colonizers in Africa began sending African slaves to their newly built colonies in the Americas. According to research, it's highly possible that the first Black Jews in the New World came as slaves from Jewish communities in Africa, like the Ethiopian Jews known as the Beta Israel. During the 15 and 1600s, slave ownership became more and more common in the New World. Over time, these slaves took on the faith of the homes in which they were enslaved, whether by choice or by force. For most, that meant becoming Christians. But for a small group of slaves, that meant becoming Jews. Over time, some of these Jewish slaves or their descendants were sold to slave owners in the United States. While records are sparse, there are accounts of at least some Black slaves in the U.S. who maintained their Jewish faith and identity. Regardless of whether they were Jewish or not, black slaves felt a strong connection with the Israelites of the Bible who were rescued from slavery in Egypt and chosen by God for a unique destiny. A verse from Psalms particularly bolstered this connection. Princes shall come out of Egypt, and Ethiopia shall soon stretch forth her hands unto God. This verse empowered and uplifted many, while leading others to believe it to be a proof of a historical connection between the biblical Israelites and modern-day black peoples. With the great migration of the early 20th century, millions of black Americans relocated to northern states in search of opportunity and to escape racist Jim Crow laws. Around the 1920s, black leaders founded Jewish-inspired African-American congregations. For some, these communities would be a path to joining mainstream denominational Judaism, namely through the path of conversion. Conversions would go on to become more common among black Americans in the decades to follow. The most famous example of conversion was the world-famous singer, actor, and comedian Sammy Davis Jr. Born to a Catholic mother and a Baptist father, Davis began his journey to Judaism after surviving a car crash in 1954. He discovered the similarities between Judaism and black culture from his friend, comedian Eddie Cantor, which led Davis to study the religion further and eventually convert. Another notable convert from this time was the civil rights activist Charles McDue. He converted to Judaism in high school, finding inspiration from a quote from the Ethics of the Fathers, "If I am only for myself, what am I? If not now, when?" McDue felt that this quote established a moral obligation to fight injustice and would become a mantra for him in his decades-long fight for civil rights. High-profile converts like these lead many people to believe that if they're meeting a black Jew, they're meeting a convert. But that's not the case, especially today. I myself am not a convert, nor were my parents. My father is a black Christian from Georgia, where his family had been for generations, while my Jewish mother's family came to Kansas from Eastern Europe. While interracial marriages like my parents are not unusual today, they used to be extremely uncommon and were even illegal in many states until 1967. That's when the Supreme Court ruled in Loving v. Virginia against anti-miscegenation laws, allowing for legal interracial marriage across the U.S. Many of those marriages were between blacks and Jews. In the second half of the 20th century, the number of black Jews increased significantly. This included those born Jewish, those adopted into Jewish families, and those who converted. That tapestry was on display in December 1993 at a symposium at the California African American Museum entitled Where Worlds Collide, The Souls of African American Jews. Shortly thereafter, black and multiracial Jews began forming organizations to support their particular concerns, issues, and Jewish heritage. In 1995, Robin Washington founded the National Conference of Black Jews. Around the year 2000, the Coalition was founded to support Jewish interracial families. Around the same time, Yavila McCoy, a black Orthodox diversity educator and consultant, started the Ayeka Resource Organization to provide support and resources for a multi-dimensional Jewish identity. Other multiracial Jewish organizations include Jews in All Hues, founded in 2009 by Jared Jackson, the Jews of Color Initiative, founded in 2016, and Joyous Justice, founded by April and Baskin that same year. The work of individuals and organizations like these and others have helped Jews and non-Jews alike appreciate the extent to which the Jewish people are a multiracial community. This shift has been aided in no small part by the fame of notable and talented black Jewish performers in pop culture. Actors such as Daveed Diggs, Tiffany Haddish, and Rashida Jones have become household names. Drake, Yitz Jordan, aka Y-Love, Shine, once known as Jamal Barrow, but now Moses Levi Barrow, Lenny Kravitz, and Nissim Black have all had success in the music industry. However, as much as black Jews have become accepted in popular culture, race relations in America have remained complicated, especially in the realm of identity politics. When supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement engaged in protests beginning in 2016, many black Jews, rabbis, and rabbinical students joined them in protests, reading from the Book of Lamentations, blowing the shofar, and reciting the mourner's Kaddish. However, as individuals and leaders within the BLM movement have spoken in opposition to Israel and Zionism, with a few groups going so far as to exclude Jewish organizations and participants, many Black Jews find themselves in a difficult situation where aspects of their identities seem in conflict. A dilemma between race and their religious and cultural identity. Today, Black, Latino, Asian, Mizrahi, and other non-white Jews make up 20% of the American Jewish population. This group is often referred to as Jews of color, though the term is contested, and I personally don't identify as a Jew of color, which you can read more about in my article on the subject linked below. Despite growing awareness within the Jewish community, many Jews of color continue to feel that Jewish individuals and organizations treat them as other, requiring them to explain and justify their existence and fight biases within their community. Especially in this cultural moment where racial awareness is in high focus, strengthening the bond between Jews of all colors is a realization of our most important Jewish values. That we unite as a people in our shared mission while treating all humans with respect and dignity.
Okay. Any comments on that? What do you think about it?
I think she's off when she talks about the Blacks. Maybe they do really consider themselves Jews, but there's a difference between Jews and Hebrew Israelites. In that video, she was not, distinguishing between the two, because she was saying that, when we came over on the slave ships, right?
Right.
That, some of us stayed the same, but some of us converted, right? But we were not Jews.
Right. Yeah, that's what I mean by when people make statements about stuff, and they don't have the core information of all the deception that can happen when it comes to that. So that's not a coincidence that they made that video and she the one over it, and it's not a coincidence that she bringing it out the way that she bringing it out, because they trying to make you. That's what they want to convey. That we all one. She trying to say, just like that 12 tribe chart, which is a joke. She's trying to say the different tribes with different nationalities of people. It's like they say they posted up in the scriptures talking about Israel was like a speckled bird. Now Israel, Jacob was a black man, and his 4 wives were black women, and then 12 boys was black.
Right.
So that's all. It's intentional. They did the same way they doing that. They did the scriptures the same way, and disrupted our order. When they concocted JC, they got it. He God. He's the Messiah. He's a Redeemer. All of them. But in the Old Testament, we got a Creator, we have a Redeemer, and we got a Messiah. They all 3 of them different. Three different entities. So they didn't, in order to get us where we at, and the way that we think now, it was all programmed, and it's in a plot. So one of the things watching that video, notice how all the people they were showing you was in Hollywood. They was
yes.
They were successful.
Mm-hmm.
You thinking they worked hard and did all what they did? No, they tried. They descendants from these Jews, the Edomite Jews. Prince, and Sammy Davis Jr., and all of them. And it was the thing about it is when you start talking about those Jews, they ain't dealing with the Old Testament like we are. They deal with Kabbalism and all this other stuff. Yeah.
And she mentioned that. She talked about the Christianity part,
right,
of that. So that is the part that really caught my attention, And like I said, they knew who we were when they brought us over here.
Exactly.
You know, they separated the order. They broke down the culture that we had, because you could just, you know, when you watch the any slave movie, right?
Right.
And you see the expressions on their faces when they separate the families or when they treat them a certain type of way. They just was not used to that type of treatment at all.
Right, exactly.
And so they forced, you know, that Christianity on us,
Right.
you know. And they even flipped that around, like I said, to benefit them, you know,
Exactly.
to make us believe that they were doing right by us.
Right. Exactly. Right. Yeah, it was a point that came up. Let me go back to the video. But this is a major point right here. Let me get it. Right here.
Many Jews fled to the New World.
Yeah, see here. So he said that many Jews fled to the New World. So what I keep on saying was that when the Israelites left was in 130, was in 143 BC, when Antioch Epiphanes and the 30 beasts, they fled here. They ended up all over here, where they came and got some slave ships. So right here, who these people is? Like I said, in 70 AD, these Edomites stole the land, and in 70 AD they was kicked out. But the Romans gave them safe passage to Spain. So all the drama going on in Spain, them Edomites. I mean, the Edomites, they went here, Spain, and they went over here in Europe. And so the dead giveaway is that he's showing you right here on these little dots that they sent the Nina Lapina and the Santa Marina out, them Edomite Jews, looking for a new world because they was getting crucified and punished because they usury. They was hoodwinking all these countries over here in Europe. Them ain't don't know white. We know now they white today, so they ain't not Israelites. So they sent those ships over here by Columbus, found this world, then they came here. That's who the 13. That's who were dealing with the 13 colonies, and that's where George Washington got his money from. To fight the British. When they revolted to the British, they was already here. And so it's clearly now you see them, you know, the people that came here, there wasn't no black folks. They came and got us. That's why they came here, because it was these Edomites. They knew where we was at. This Esau, he knew where we was at. So when they got over here and they needed help over here, they came right here and got us right here. And like I said, where Paul go? Paul went. He was all over here, Spain, all this area. Them Jews, they're not Israelites. They have to be understood.
Right, but the true Hebrew Israelite in Hollywood that is awakening, Kendrick Lamar, she didn't include him, but you know he's the only one that says Hebrew Israelites. The other one says Jews: Maxwell, Prince, Tiffany Haddish. You know, everybody that she was showing was saying Black Jew.
Right, exactly.
You know, I thought about that, you know, watching that part when she was, you know, talking about the celebrities, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you zero in, you see that it's all planned and programmed. She's not making no honest mistakes. They know they got that. They had a proper understanding of they know they role and all that. Like come to find out a Quincy Jones that was over Motown. Come to find out his track when he tracked his DNA back to white men, back to Edomite Jews. So it's not a coincidence they had them over Motown, because you know he was the face of Motown, but them Jews was getting all the money.
Right.
Yeah, that's what they've been doing it all over. Even with the slave ships, they the ones owned all the slave ships, but they had other people out there, front people like they was the ones behind it. But them Jews, when you do your research, you find out they was the ones behind all the they had all the slave ships, all the resources, and they all that. They made the transatlantic that whole system work. It was Edomite Jews behind it. Yeah, that's something. So yeah, with that being said, anybody else got anything before I go into the lesson? I'm gonna read Joshua 27 and 28, and break down each chapter as we go. Okay. Yeah. So let me get it. Okay. Okay. So chapter 27, it says, and Esau at that time, after the death of Abraham, frequently went in the field to hunt, and Nimrod, king of Babylon, the same as Amrathal, also frequently went with his mighty men to hunt in the field and to walk about with his men in the cool of the day. And Nimrod was observing Esau all these days for a jealousy was formed in the heart of Nimrod against Esau all his days. And on a certain day, Esau went in the field to hunt, and he found Nimrod walking in the wilderness with his two men, and all his mighty men and his people were with him in the wilderness, but they moved at a distance from him, and they went from him in different directions to hunt. And Esau concealed himself for Nimrod, and he lurked for him in the wilderness. And Nimrod and his men, they were with him, did not know him. And Nimrod and his men frequently walked about in the field at the cool of the day, and to know where his men were, were hunting in the field. And Nimrod and his two men that were with him came to the place where they were, when Esau started suddenly from his lurking place, and drew his sword, and hastened and ran to Nimrod and cut off his head. And Esau fought a desperate fight with the two men that were with Nimrod. And when they called out to him, Esau turned to them, smote them to death with his sword. And all the mighty men of Nimrod who had left him to go to the wilderness heard the cry at a distance, and they knew the voices of those men, and they ran to know the cause of it. And when they found their king and the two men that were with him lying dead in the wilderness, and when Esau saw the mighty men of Nimrod coming in a distance, he fled and thereby escaped. And Esau took the valuable garments of Nimrod, which Nimrod's father had bequeathed to Nimrod, and with which Nimrod prevailed over the whole land. And he ran and concealed them in his house. And Esau took those garments and ran into the city on account of Nimrod's men, and he came into his father's house, wearied and exhausted from the fight, and he was ready to die through grief when he approached his brother Jacob and sat before him. And he said unto his brother, Behold, I shall die this day, and wherefore then do I want the birthright? And Jacob acted wisely with Esau in the matter. And Esau sold his birthright to Jacob, for he was so brought about by the Lord. And Esau portioned in the cave of the field of Mizpah, which Abraham had bought from the children of Heth for possession of a barrel. Esau also sold to Jacob, and Jacob bought all this from his brother Esau for value given. And Jacob wrote the whole of this in a book, and he testified the same with witness. witnesses, and he sealed it, and the book remained in the hands of Jacob. And when Nimrod, the son of Cush, died, his men lifted him up and brought him in consternation and buried him in his city. And all the days that Nimrod lived were 215 years, and he died. And the days that Nimrod reigned upon the people of the land were 185 years. And Nimrod died by the sword of Esau in shame at the tent. And the seed of Abraham caused his death. And the seed of Abraham caused his death, as he had seen in his dream. And at the death of Nimrod, his kingdom became divided in many divisions. And all those parts that Nimrod reigned over were restored to the respective kings of the land, who recovered them after the death of Nimrod. And all the people of the house of Nimrod were for a long time enslaved to all the other kings of the land. Okay, so that was Joshua chapter 27. Any comments? Okay. Shalom, bro. Any comments on that? On chapter 27? Joshua. Two things I got out of that was we see that Esau had just came from murdering Nimrod when he came up on Jacob and out of breath when he made the deal with him about his birthright. But not only did he sell his birthright, he also sold his part in the burial plot that in the cave that Abraham had bought from Heth. He sold this spot in the burial is I guess you can say his grave rights. And you notice that in Joshua later on they had a big fight at the grave when they went to bury Jacob. When they went to bury Abraham, a fight broke out. Isaac, they went to bury Isaac, a fight broke out between them, and because of that. But Abraham, Jacob went and got the book that they had wrote, the receipt, and bought it. But still a fight broke out. And yeah, another thing was that Nimrod Nimrod was killed by Esau. And another thing that was important too was 17. It says, and at the death of Nimrod, his kingdom. And so we go to when Alexander died, the Greek kingdom was divided. It says, and at the death of Nimrod, his kingdom became divided into many divisions, and all those parts that Nimrod reigned over were restored to their respective kings of the land, who recovered them after the death of Nimrod. And all the people of the house of Nimrod were for a long time enslaved to all the other kings of the land. So that's the same thing that's been told to us. That those who oppress people gonna be oppressed. Those who was in captivity gonna reign over those that put them in captivity. And we see right here, Nimrod and the Nimrod household. That's what happened to them. While Nimrod was reigning and conquering countries and oppressing people, but when Nimrod died, his people became enslaved and oppressed. So there's nothing new under the sun. Any comments? Okay, I'm going to read chapter 28. It says, in those days, after the death of Abraham, in that year, the Lord brought a heavy famine in the land. And while the famine was raging in the land of Canaan, Isaac rose up to go down to Egypt on account of the famine, as his father Abraham had done. And the Lord appeared that night to Isaac, and he said unto him, do not go down into Egypt, but rise and go to Gerar, the Amalek, king of the Philistines, and remain there till the famine shall cease. And Isaac rose up and went to Gerar as the Lord commanded him, and he remained there a full year. And when Isaac came to Gerar, the people of the man saw Rebekah his wife was of a beautiful appearance. And the people of Gerar also, asked Isaac concerning his wife, and he said, "She is my sister." And he was afraid to say she was his wife, lest the people of the land should slay him on account of her. And the princes of Amalek went and praised the woman to the king, but he answered them not, neither did he attend to their words. But he heard them say that Isaac declared her to be his sister. So the king reserved this within his heart. And when Isaac had remained 3 months in the land, Amalek looked out of the window and saw, and behold, Isaac was sporting with Rebekah his wife. For Isaac dwelt in the outer house belonging to the king, so that the house of Isaac was opposite the king's house, the house of the king. And the king said unto Isaac, What is this thou hast done unto us in saying thy wife, she is my mother, my sister? How easily might one of the great men of the people have lain with her, and thou would then have brought guilt upon us. And Isaac said unto Amalek, Because I was afraid lest I die on account of my wife. Therefore I said, She is my sister. At that time Amalek gave orders to all the princes and great men, and they took Isaac and Rebekah his wife and brought them before the king. And the king commanded that they should dress them in priestly garments and make them to ride through the streets of the city and proclaim before them throughout the land, saying, This is the man and his wife. Whosoever touches this man or his wife shall surely die. And Isaac returned with his wife to the king's house, and the Lord was with Isaac, and he continued to wax great and lack nothing. And the Lord caused Isaac to find favor in the sight of Amalek and in the sight of all his subjects. And Amalek acted well with Isaac, for Amalek remembered the oath and the covenant that existed between his father and Abraham. And Amalek said unto Isaac, Behold, the whole earth is before thee. The well whatsoever it may seem good in thy sight, until thou shalt return to thy land. And Amalek gave Isaac fields and vineyards and the best parts of the land of Gerar to sow and reap and eat the fruit of the ground until the days of the famine should have passed by. Okay? And he says, and Isaac sowed in that land and received 100-fold in the same year. And the Lord blessed him. And the man waxed great, and he had a possession of flocks and a possession of herds and great store of servants. And when the days of the famine had passed away, the Lord appeared to Isaac and said unto him, Rise up, go forth from this place, and return to thy land, to the land of Canaan. And Isaac rose up and returned to Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan. He and all belonging unto him, as the Lord had commanded him. And after this, Shelah, the son of Arphash, died in that year, which is the 18th year of the life of Jacob and Esau. And all the days of Shelah lived were 433 years, and he died. And at that time Isaac sent his younger son Jacob to the house of Shem and Eber, and he learned the instructions of the Lord. And Jacob remained in the house of Shem and Eber for 32 years. And Esau's brother did not go, for he was not willing to go. He remained in his father's house in the land of Canaan. And Esau was continuously hunting in the fields to bring home what he could get, so did Esau all his days. And Esau was a designing and deceitful man, one who hunted after the hearts of men, and he indulged them. And Esau was a valiant man in the field, and in the course of time went as usual to hunt. And he came as far as the field of Seir, and the same as Edom. And he remained in the land of Seir hunting in the fields a year and 4 months. And Esau there saw the land of Seir, the daughter of a man of Canaan, and her name was Judith, daughter of Beri, son of Ephah, from the families of Heth, the sons of Canaan. And Esau took her for a wife, and he came unto her. 40 years old was Esau when he took her and brought her to Hebron, the land of his father's dwelling place, and he dwelt there. And it came to pass in those days, in the 110th year of the life of Isaac, that is, in the 15th year of the life of Jacob, in that year died Shem, the son of Noah. Shem was 600 years old at his death. And when Shem died, Jacob returned to his fathers to Hebron, which is in the land of Canaan. And in the 56th year of the life of Jacob, people came from Haran, and Rebekah was told concerning her brother Laban, the son of Bethuel. For the wife of Laban was barren in those days and bore no children, and also his handmaidens bore none to him. And the Lord afterwards remembered Adinziah, the wife of Laban, and she conceived and bore twins. And Laban called the names of these daughters, the names of the eldest Leah, and the name of the younger Rachel. And those days came and told these things to Rebekah, and Rebekah rejoiced greatly as the Lord had visited her brother, and that he had gotten children. So that was Genesis chapter 29. Any comments?
This story sort of reminds me of Abraham and Sarah when, he said that, Sarah was his sister when they was in the land of the Philistines.
Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So if you notice in that, that's the reason why Amalek is afraid, because he know the story his father told him about Abraham and what the angel of the Lord had did to him, to his dad. And then not only that, I read this yesterday, I think, and I read it Saturday, but I'm gonna read it again. I'm in King James, Genesis chapter 20. So we know that he prospered. He prospered because of going down to Gilgal. When Isaac went down to Gilgal, he prospered just like Abraham did. So I'm in Genesis chapter 21, verse 22. It's the covenant that Amalek was referring to in the book of Joshua. It says, it came to pass at that time that Amalek and Physcah, the chief captain of the host, spake unto Abraham, saying, God is with thee in all that thou doest. Now therefore swear unto me here by God that thou wilt not deal falsely with me, nor with my sons, nor with any of my sons' sons, but according to thy kindness that I have done unto thee, thou shalt do unto me and to thee the land wherein thou hast sojourned. And Abraham said, I will swear. And Abraham reproved Amalek because of the well of water, which Amalek's servants had violently taken away. And Amalek said, I would not who had done this thing, neither did thou tell me, neither yet heard it of it but today. And Abraham took the sheep and the oxen and gave them unto Amalek, and both of them made a covenant. This right here is what he's talking about. Now Amalek remembered the boy remembered the covenant that his daddy had with Abraham. That's what he's talking about. He's referring to this right here. Abraham made a covenant with him, and he told him to swear by his son and his grandson on down. And so when Isaac showed up down there, he remembered the covenant. Okay. And there's some?
Yes.
Okay. So, like I was saying before we close out, anybody got anything they want to bring up, that they want to discuss or shine a light on before we go? Yeah, so with that being said, let me hit this right here. So with that being said, I'm gonna say shalom, and I'm gonna see everybody tomorrow on Clubhouse at 8 o'clock for our Q&A session. Ask Brother Leonard Q&A. If you got any questions or something, just get them lined out so we can talk about it and make for a good conversation. Shalom.